I don't think it's the first time, Bev. You might remember that in the few days after the Taliban took over the country almost exactly 2 years ago, that they did go around, their gunmen did go around the city streets and deface the pictures and photographs of women that were in the windows of beauty salons and any sort of public depiction of women's faces. But this new edict gives the ubiquitous beauty salons that are all over the country in big cities and small a month to close down. What it basically does is further shrink, as you said, the space that's available to women in the country.
It seems like such a harmless industry. Why does the Taliban want to shut down?
Well, it's all about making sure that women are confined to their homes. If you have places where women can naturally gather, like beauty salons, then they will. They'll get together, they'll chat, they're with their friends, they'll talk about the things that we talk about, what life is like, how confined to their homes they are, how unhappy their families are, how distraught their girls are that they can't go out, meet their friends, go to parks, go to gyms, go to school, go to university. Life has shrunk. There is no hope. And so this is just another way of making sure that women know their place in the Taliban's Afghanistan.
Yeah. Has female employment been reduced and targeted elsewhere across Afghanistan?
Women just basically, Bev, are not allowed to work. The edict that came out telling women that they were no longer allowed to work for the big non-government organisations or the UN was issued on the 24th of December last year. The UN knew that it also applied to them, but tried to talk their way out of it. There were mixed messages from the senior figures inside the Taliban. But essentially, the creeping restrictions on women's movement has included them not being able to work full stop.
Yeah. You know, I imagine, although it may not be one of the biggest industries, that the economic fallout will flow on from this.
Well, it may not be one of the biggest, but when you think of the beauty industry worldwide, it is very significant. Weddings are huge, or had been huge business in Afghanistan, and these beauty businesses would turn over enormous amounts of money, certainly relative to the economy in Afghanistan, because women would go there and spend, and their husbands would spend a lot of money making their families, making sure that they looked as gorgeous as they possibly could for their weddings and other ceremonies. But also in the months after the Taliban took over, a lot of I think we've discussed it before, Bev, the forced marriages, Taliban taking second, third and fourth wives, also fueled, ironically, a lot of business for the beauty salons. So I think that it is taking a significant chunk out of the economy, and also for families in which the men can't work. I've seen women quoted in stories subsequent to this ban saying that they are the breadwinners for extended families because there's no work for the men. So it's significant on many levels, yeah.
And it just takes that, you know, that another layer of autonomy for women to feel that they can make some form of contribution. Is it also about making women more demure, not attractive? Is that also playing into what the Taliban are doing?
I'm not so sure that that's a part of it. I think that it's about control more than anything else, Bev. I mean, last week, one of these senior Taliban figures said women don't need to have both eyes uncovered when they go outside their homes. One eye will do. I mean, I can't think of a more insidious way to control women than take their right to eyesight from them. You're making them wear big, voluminous gowns. You try walking over unmade roads in those, you fall over. Oh, it doesn't matter if they fall, but show two eyes, that's also a transgression. This is about an insidious misogynistic control that also feeds into control of men. If you have a household in which the men are brought up by women who have self-respect and the respect of their community and their country, their society, then you'll be bringing up boys who respect women too. That's not happening. This is all about an insidious extremist control in the name of religion.
Lynne, you know, we know that the Taliban government has argued for the unfreezing of funding and the flow of aid back to Afghanistan. I can't imagine this kind of move is going to do their case for that any good at all.
I don't think so, but I do see a creeping desire amongst the leaders of the international community, if that's the way of describing it these days, the United States and the United Nations, towards recognising the Taliban. There's already a dozen countries that ostensibly recognise them and have diplomatic presence in their embassies in Kabul, including China and Russia and Turkey, Iran, the Central Asian states. Now, all of these countries wanted the American and Western NATO presence gone from the region, and in return, they're now having to deal with a fairly extreme, ignorant, impunious regime that just wants to go its own way. Now, I think that they are very, very assiduously using the issue of women's rights to get what they want from the international community. The deputy head of the UN's mission in Kabul was interviewed by the UN yesterday, in which he said, you know, really what they have to do is respect women, let them go to school, let them work for NGOs and the UN, and then I think that the international community will want to recognise them. The Taliban knows that the treatment of women is a touchstone issue, and that by using it as a blackmailing tactic, if you like, to get the recognition of the world, that they're really touching on the emotiveness of this issue. There's an awful lot that's going on. The rights of 40 million people, men and women, in Afghanistan are being trashed and abused and taken away, with the, I would argue, collaboration and collusion of the United States and the United Nations. And yet it's the women and the issue of the way women are treated that is being held up as, we're hearing that not all Taliban figures agree that girls shouldn't go to school. I don't think that's the case. I think that the treatment of women is an ideological issue for the Taliban, and they're very cleverly using it to blackmail the international community to recognise their regime as legitimate.
Yeah, and this is yet another example. Good to talk, Lynne, as always. Thank you.
Bev, thank you too.